This ain't about religion. This ain't about fixing yourself. This Soul Truth Sunday Live is about hatching from a version of yourself that no longer fits. Welcome back, good people, to another edition of Soul Truth Sunday Live. I'm your host, FL, your life coach. And in this Soul Truth Sunday Live today, we diving in, like I said, 21-day journey of my book, Hatch. I'm going to gift this to you, right? So be on the lookout in the comments below. I'm going to pin it in the comments. I'm going to pin it in the actual, in the chat, or you should see it in the pinned comment after this video. But I'm just gift this to you. And then tomorrow, join me for day 2 as I'm going to go live for 21 straight days this month, helping you hatch from those outdated beliefs. So this Sunday, man, I got 6 parts, good people. 6 parts that I'm going to get into today, and I'm going to get into day 1. And then, you know what, man, we're going to get out of here. Ask your questions below because this is a live Q&A. So if you got questions, drop them below in the comment. And so listen, yeah, this ain't a Bible study. You know, this ain't no, I wrote down, this ain't no sermon, right? This is just a conversation with me and you about how I started to become aware and hatch out of those outdated beliefs and how I got to this point right here, right? So I wrote down in my notes, nothing that you believe is under attack. That ain't what this video is about. That ain't what this video is about. This video is just to help you hatch from those outdated beliefs so you can start living the best version of yourself and living the best life for yourself. So before we get into part 1, I'm about to just get right into it, dive into it. Before we get into part 1, I wrote down here for the key soul truth as we go forward into part 1 before we get into part. So this is the soul truth I want you to take away as we dive into it, right? I didn't write hatch because I figured life out. This is what I put in my notes. I wrote it because my old way of seeing life and doing life stopped working. I'm going to say that again. I didn't write hatch because I figured life out. I wrote it because my old way of seeing life and doing life stopped working. Yeah, that's why I wrote it. Come on, now we about to get into it. So part 1, so today I just wanted to set it up with the first part on why I really wrote Hatch, how Hatch came into existence, and how I wrote it. I've been speaking my whole life, good people. Going all the way back to my early 20s. Like I said, I've been public speaking for over 20-something years. From going back to church with my mom, being co-pastors at Transform for a Miracle Ministry, me and my wife with my mom, to like speaking on the radio with my mom, to hosting radio shows, co-hosting radio shows in Dallas. When we moved to Dallas, I'll get more into that. But speaking, I've always been a speaker, man. I've been into personal development and speaking for over 20-some years of my life. I'm 47 years old. Always my gift. Y'all heard me. One of my gifting. Translation is one of my gifting. So speaking has always been a big deal for me. I've always known that was kind of like my path. And then being younger, I've always heard that my whole life. Prophecy spoke over me. When I was younger, hey, he's supposed to be a minister. He's supposed to be an elder, this and that, because I was always able to put words together and express myself even from a young age. Like I said, communication has always been one of my biggest giftings. So just a little backdrop, like I said, on how Hatch came into play. Speaking has always been part of my life. So as I started to develop that speaking skill over the years, going around, like I said, co-pastoring, Transform for Miracles Ministries with my mom, me and my wife was there, being on the radio, I started to develop these skills, right? And these skills started to develop in religion, in those beliefs that were handed to me, right? And so, like you hear me talk about all the time, the first 7 years of everybody's life is the most critical. People go back and watch the subconscious programming of those other lives. And I'm having a lot of speaking engagements. We're co-mastering with my mom. I'm really getting into this thing now, right? Speaking, finding my groove, right? Really getting man, how do I say this? Polishing my skills, I guess, is another word I would use. So I'm really engulfing myself in the gift of speaking and engulfing myself in the beliefs that was handed to me, the religious beliefs, the core values. I'm young at this time, so I'm really not, questioning them at this time because I'm in my early 20s. I'm just going with them. So at this time, I'm thinking life is good. I'm going with it. But towards the end, as I want to say, how old was I? I was probably about 28, right before me and wifey moved to Dallas. So towards the end, right before we moved to Dallas, that's when I started having some internal questioning about my beliefs, about what I was told, about the Bible, about God, about money, all these things. I started to question towards the end, right before we started to move to Dallas for ministry work. So that brings me to the next section, which is part 2, right? And I wrote down here for the soul truth as I go into part 2 is I started to grow. So I wrote this down for the soul truth. Growth will always feel like loss before it feels like freedom. Yeah, so as I enter into the Dallas phase now, of the part 2 of this 21-day hatch, right? I'm starting to kind of grow and see things already on my own. And it was scary, right? It didn't feel like freedom. It didn't feel like I was hatching, right? It felt almost like death because those beliefs, core values, the things that I had been handed since I was a little kid, they started to kind of unravel. But at this time, I couldn't say nothing to nobody, right? Because I was already knee deep in what I was doing, right? So you just kind of keep silent. My wife knew, but you just kind of keep silent and just kind of keep going through the motions, which brings me to part 2, right? When we moved to Dallas. So part 1, we was in the ministry here in Oklahoma. Part 2, we rented out our house. We had just built a house. We was probably in it for about 4 or 5 years. We was already doing ministry work in Oklahoma. Like I said, with my mom, when her ministry was co-pastors, we was on the radio. And so part 2, the move to Dallas, was for us to get more into the ministry. So when we moved to Dallas, we really believed that was the next step, me and my wife, into the ministry, because I really believed that I was called to the ministry because I was told that my whole life from a little kid all the way up, right? So when you hear something your whole life, and let me side note this, right? A belief is nothing more than something that you accept to be true. I'm going to say that again. A belief is nothing more than something that you accept to be true, right? So if you hear something your whole life, right, if you accept that as true, then you're going to start believing it, whether it works for you or not. So I had heard these things my whole life. I was supposed to be a minister. I was supposed to be a pastor. I was supposed to do this. I was supposed to do that, right? So as I'm going through these things and doing these things, but something is still not sitting right in my soul, good people, even though I'm not saying nothing. So we moved to Dallas. We rented out our house, moved to Dallas, really believed that this was the next step, right? So we got to Dallas. We got involved heavily at the Potter's house. Shout out to my Potter's house family. You know what I'm saying? We met a lot of good people down there at the Potter's house, man. A lot of good people. Mr. Roberson, shout out to you. Love you, man. Gave me some work when I first moved down there. My mentor, Elder Kenny Randall, love you, man. Took me up underneath his wing. Shout out to Harold, the celebrity barber and boss lady. That was co-host, brought me into Life Choice Radio. Shout out to Tamika, my sis. Shout out to my big bro, Tori, and my goddaughter, Dylan. And shout out to Don. Man, there's a lot of good things happened when we was in Dallas, good people. Momentum externally was building. But watch this. Internally, though, my beliefs, the things that I was taught, my core values was cracking. They was coming to an end, good people, right? They was cracking. The very foundation that I have built my life on, right? The very foundation, right, that we had built everything on. Me and my wife have built it, moved to Dallas on this same belief of foundation, started to crack, started to crumble, right? But like I said, I still couldn't say nothing to nobody but my wife because I was so deep into it, right? So as this goes on, right? I'm in Dallas. We heavily involved in the ministry. I'm starting having all these thoughts about questioning all these beliefs about God, about just my own identity, about money, about relationships, just about life, period, right? I wrote down before we go to part 3, good people, I wrote down this in my notes. This is the soul truth that I take away from part 2 that I want you to take away. I didn't lose my faith. I wrote down, I lost certainty in my faith, and that scared me. I'm going to say that again. When we moved to Dallas, I didn't lose my faith, right? I lost certainty in my faith, and that scared me because I got exposed to some things in Dallas that I didn't get to see in OKC, right? I got exposed to some things behind the scenes about ministry and church and all these other things. And that's a whole nother video. But man, it added to the fuel of my foundation cracking, right? Because what I was seeing and what I was hearing over the pulpit sometimes didn't match what I would see in private conversations and what I would hear in private conversations. So that just added more fuel to the fire of, is this shit really real? Like, I'm gonna be honest. It's like, what? Like, is this really like what I've been told my whole life about God, church, religion, these beliefs? Are they really real? Or do I need to hatch? Like I said, I didn't lose my faith, good people. I lost certainty in that faith, right? And that scared me. I lost certainty in those beliefs. I lost certainty in those Bible stories that was taught to me, right? Because what was being exposed to me when we moved to Dallas. So now I'm getting to part 3. I ain't getting there. Like I said, it's 7 parts. I'm getting there. I'm getting there, man. This is part 3. So as all this awareness started to happen, started to unfold, then my eyes are watering. Sorry. So all this awareness, give me a little drink. Give me a little drink. Shout out to my Eagles today, baby. Fly, Eagles, fly. Playoff football, baby. Okay, so listen. So as I'm starting to get more and more aware when I moved to Dallas, starting to see all this stuff behind the scenes when I moved to Dallas, now this is where consciousness comes in. I got to give a shout out to my guy. I forgot to mention my guy, James, man. I forgot his last name, but my guy gave me my first consciousness book. I never forget it. It was the Subconscious Programming by Brian Tracy or something to that nature. And that's what really accelerated my growth and really started to open up my eyes. So this part 3, I want to talk about how the consciousness, that book really changed the way I started to look at things. And I wanted to say, I wrote down in my notes, I wasn't ignorant to like study belief because I had given 10 or 12 years of my life to studying the text, to studying the book, Hebrew, Greek, the whole 9. I truly thought I was going to have a life in ministry, be a pastor, have my own church, me and my wife. So I was already well versed in hermeneutics, all that. If you know anything about Bible study, hermeneutics, well, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Hermeneutics. It might be hermeneutics. Hermeneutics is one of them. But that is the proper study of the text, which is putting it in context. Who wrote it, right? Who they was writing to, what was going on in the political climate, what was going on. So I had that underneath my belt for a good 10 years already. So it wasn't like I was ignorant to the text. So when consciousness entered in, man, woo, it was a totally different experience. And this is what I wrote down for the soul truth. This is what I figured out for me in my own soul truth when I really started to study consciousness, subconscious programming. It wasn't a different truth. It was just a different language. I'm going to say that again. It wasn't a different truth. It was a different language. What do you mean, FL? This is what I mean. If you ask the neuroscience to explain God, right, or to explain energy, and ask the theologian to explain God, they're going to give you the two same definitions. Two same definitions, right? Watch this. The theologian, when he explains God, he's going to tell you can't be created, can't can't be created, right? Always was, always will be, flows through, around, always, everywhere, all at once, right? Omnipresence, right? If you ask the neuroscience to explain energy, can't be created, can't be destroyed, always was, always will be, flows through you, around you, everywhere, all at once. Same definition, different language, right? So that's what I started to understand as my beliefs started to hatch, as I started to see more awareness behind the scenes, as I started to study more and get more versed into consciousness, right? Nervous system, trauma patterns, fundamental belief systems, right? I started to really realize, my soul started to understand, oh, this is the same truth. It's just different language. So my question for you as we go to part 4, can you accept the same truth, but just because you hear it differently though? Can you accept it even when it's spoken differently? Because truth is truth is truth is truth, good people. It don't matter the language. If it's true, it's true. Okay, so listen, let's get to part 4 now. So part 4, I told you I had 6 parts and I'm gonna let you get up out of here, man. So part 4 is what hatching really meant to me. This is what it really meant for me to start hatching from those outdated beliefs, from hatching from those outdated values, hatching from those outdated core values that was just handed to me that I never questioned, right? That I just went along with it. And on the outside, it looked like my life was gaining momentum. Because like I said, when we moved to Dallas, man, I got on the radio. I got heavily involved in the ministry, right? Me and my wife was in the marriage ministry, right? Speaking, doing speaking gigs. I got heavily involved. So on the outside, it looked like I was gaining momentum, right? If somebody would look at me and my wife's life from the outside when we lived in Dallas, it looked like we was really gaining momentum. It looked like we was really going hard. But on the inside, my foundation was cracking. On the inside, I was suffocating my soul and I didn't have language for it, right? On the inside, I didn't know where to turn and I couldn't really speak it. So hatch for me, what that really meant for me was just normalizing my fear and grief, because what I knew was coming to an end. Those neural pathways that I had developed in my mind. You hear me and Dr. Ford talk about that. Go check out those last Soul Truth Live. They had dead ends. What I knew to be true, I wrote down here, hatching for me meant leaving a shell that once protected me, growing, growth, expanding, but growth felt like betrayal to me, right? I wrote down, as I was growing, it felt like betrayal to me because those beliefs were so ingrained in me my whole life that I felt like I was betraying myself, even though I was expanding and growing. I was scared. It was very scary for me to leave those beliefs. I was confused in my identity when we lived in Dallas, when I was writing this book, Hatch, right? All of this stuff was happening inside of me as I was going through this, hatching from those outdated beliefs. And I was silent. You hear me talk about that a lot. I was doing a lot of shadow work because I couldn't really put into words what was going on. I thought I was going to hell, good people. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to hell. I don't believe this no more, right? I couldn't put it into words. And that was the scariest part for me. So that's what I wrote down here. The takeaway from part 4 as we go into part 5. The soul truth I want you to sit with is this. When your old beliefs, I wrote down, when my old beliefs were dying, it felt like I was dying. I'm going to say that again. When your old beliefs die, it feels like you're dying because it's stripping a part of your identity. Think about this. If you built your life on something your whole life, And then all of a sudden you figure out, mm, I don't think this is really true. It's going to rock your world. It's going to, it's going to flip your world upside down. So I'm grappling with all of this as I'm in the ministry, as I'm still showing up in ministry, as I'm still ministering to people, right? As I'm still about to go into starting me and my wife is about to move back to Oklahoma City at this point to start our own church, right? So I'm going through all of this and I'm having all these feelings on the inside that I had to keep quiet. And it felt like my soul was muffled, like my soul was trying to talk and I couldn't hear it because it was muffled. It felt like my soul was tangled up and it couldn't move. But on the outside, everything looked great. Like I said, Dallas wasn't a bad experience all the way around. Dallas really grew me up and matured me. I met a lot of great people. Like I said, shout out to the Starr family, man. My boy Nathan Starr had a rent house, helped me out. Shout out to Betty, man. Man, we used to have a whole lot of deep conversation. Man, I met a lot of great people, but my soul was starving, good people. My soul was muffled, right? So listen, that brings me to Section 5. Section 5. We almost done. Stay with me. We almost done. Section 5. So you heard me talk about a little bit about when I was in Dallas going through all this. I actually wrote this book in the parking lot of Whole Foods. That's what Section 5 is about. So I wrote down Section 5, how I really wrote the book. I gave you the backdrop of what I was going through. And now every day for 30 days straight, I showed up at the Whole Foods parking lot in Dallas off of 75 in the Highland Park area. Every day, same spot, same back time. And I wrote this book. Literally, it took me like 30 days, man. My wife can attest to this. I didn't force it. It just poured out. You know why? Because I was living what I was writing. I was embodying what I was writing. The very days that I was writing this, I was living it. I was going through it. As I was writing this, I was living it. So it was just pouring out, right? And watch this. It was uncertainty all around me when I was writing this book. We had just lost our second son, Joshua. Rest in peace. He would be 11 if he was still alive. My wife, placenta separated. Long story short, they put on bed rest when we was in Dallas, and we lost it. She had to have an emergency delivery. Joshua stayed alive for about 2 hours. We got to hold him, all that. And then he passed on us, went on to glory, right? So all of this was happening, good people, as I'm writing this book, Hatch. I was living the very thing that I was writing. That's why it just poured out of me like it did in 30 days. It was just pouring, right? It was just pouring. So as I go to the last part now, as we get into day 1, I wrote down this as the key line. Soul truth, right? I said, Hatch wasn't a business idea for me at that time. I promise you it wasn't. It was survival for me at that time. This is what kept me sane. I told you, one of my gifts is communication. So if I'm not pouring, if I'm not expressing, I'm dying, right? I have to exercise my gift. So at the time I wrote this book, man, this was survival for me, good people. Hatch was survival for me. It wasn't about trying to make a sale. It was about really trying to figure out, where do I go with my life at this point? Because the very thing I built my life on had just crumbled from underneath me. So, man, my eyes keep watering. So listen, so now part six, I'm almost done, good people. I'm almost done. Listen, part 6, what Hatch really meant to me, right? Hatch is really about transformation, right? Hatch is really about, I wrote down, letting go of subconscious loops, questioning inherited beliefs, right? Reclaiming your authority, trusting your inner voice, right? And going from survival mode to survival living to intentional living. I'm going to say that again. This is what hatch really means and what it meant for me, right? And what it means why I wrote this book, right? It was survival for me, but this is what this book is all about. Letting go of subconscious loops, questioning inherited beliefs, reclaiming your authority, trusting your inner voice, and going from survival living to intentional living. So the soul truth I want you to take away from here before we get into day one, and then we done. And I'm going to have you join me tomorrow for day two, right? So as we get into day one, I wrote down, hatch isn't about, this is the soul truth. Hatch isn't about, no, let me say that again. Hatch is not about becoming someone new. This is what I wrote down. Hatch is not about becoming someone new. It's the same DNA. It's about shedding what you were never meant to carry. Hatch isn't about becoming someone new. It's about transforming, changing forms. It's about shedding what you was never meant to carry. Those old beliefs, the subconscious programming that was handed to you in those first 7 years, that's not your beliefs. That's not your way of thinking. Those are not your core values. They can be, but have you ever questioned them, right? You have to question those beliefs in order to hatch from those beliefs, right? So now I'm just getting ready to get into day one with you right now, and then we get ready to get out of here, right? I just wanted to set it up, give you the backdrop, why I wrote hatch, where hatch came from, how it was birthed, right? I was you. I was questioning my beliefs. I was questioning those inherited beliefs. I was questioning those subconscious programming loops, especially from a religious standpoint. Because if you grew up like I did, you know, in a religious home, my mom was a minister, we did all that. I told you all the story. Then that was really embedded into you. So when you start to try to leave those beliefs, it's scary because your first impression is, oh my God, I'm going to hell because I don't believe this no more, right? And that's not really the truth. That's not true. I want you to hear this soul truth, man, before I get into day one and then we done. Soul truth I wrote down. Transformation does not start with discipline. Transformation does not start with discipline. Transformation starts with awareness because you can't transform what you're unaware of. So as we get into day one, right now, the download is going to be pinned to the comments. The download is going to be pinned to the comments. So be on the lookout for that. You can just download it right after this live, or you can just hit the link in the pinned comment and get your free download. So day one, let's open up the book. Let's open up the book, good people. Let's open up the book. Yes, sir. Day one. We about to get into it. So day one. It's about success. So I wrote it. Man, let me just read it. Look. So when you think of the word success, what comes to your mind? Some of you may think success is having lots of money, being at the top of your profession, or owning your own business. Whatever your definition of success is, there are three things you must consider when you achieve success. One, success is a personal choice. Nobody can make you be successful. That's number one. Number two, success will always involve standards. So you must consider who or what is choosing those standards. That's number two, good people. And then number three, success will always come with a cost. You must be willing to pay full price because success never goes on sale, right? It never goes on sale. So, man, my eyes keep watering. Allergies. Sorry, allergies, baby. So listen, question number one I put in here for day one. Do you choose to be successful? Answer that honestly. You got to answer that. Only you can answer that question. Do you choose to be successful, good people? My answer was yes at the time. What's your answer? Question number two. How do you define success? How do you define success? Like I said, success has standards. What's your standards? How do you define it? Because everybody defines success differently. What's your standard of success? Question number three, what standards does your success live by? Remember the three questions I said before. Success is a personal choice. Success always involves standards. Success comes with a cost. So, what standards do your success live by? Are those outdated standards and beliefs? Or there are those beliefs that you are updating that serve you now? So you always got to remember those three things. So that's day one of Hatch, right? The link is going to be in the comment. Join me tomorrow for day two as we go into day two of Hatch. Like I said, I'm going to be here every day, 21 straight days, right? 21 straight days. I want you to really sit with the book. I want you to really sit with it so you can really ask yourself those questions on your own. And every day I'm going to show up in 10, 15 minutes. I'm going to go live, kind of give you the backdrop of each day. And then you sit with it. You answer those questions honestly because I really want you to hack. So day two, tomorrow, 9 o'clock, Monday is going to be day two. Day two is channel surfing, right? So that's what we're going to be going over day two tomorrow. So 21 days, good people. Every day for the next 21 days, I'm going to be here helping you hatch into the best version of yourself, right? Like I said, I didn't write hatch, right? Because I felt like I had life figured out, right? I wrote hatch because the way I saw life and the way I was doing life stopped working. And hatch was survival for me. It wasn't a business deal. So listen, wasn't a business out there. So listen, drop your comments below. Drop your comments or email me, FL the life coach, FLTHA life coach at gmail.com to ask your questions. Join me tomorrow, 9 a.m. Central again, as we go over day two of the 21-day live challenge. Be on the lookout for that link. I'm going to drop it in the comment section so you can download your copy. And listen, day two, tomorrow, 9 a.m. I can't stress it enough. I'm going to be here. I'm excited about teaching this series for you because this is why I wrote this book, right? This is why, to hatch to be the best version of myself. And I'll help you be the best version of yourself, jumpstarting your 2026. So join me tomorrow. That's all I got. Until tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel. Man, listen, I'm FL the Life Coach, good people. And I'm always spreading that peace and love twice on Sunday. Go out, attract the life of your dreams. Y'all already know what to do. Dare to be you. Until tomorrow, day two, 21-day journey hatch. Y'all have a good Sunday.